When you saw your synagogue on fire, how did you feel? What came across your mind?
I was frightened. I was helpless. And let me tell you something about this whole concept. I was the daughter of the cantor, and the synagogue had really been my life. It had been my second home. And the synagogue I see as a building that encompasses a way of life through Torah, through singing, through prayers, but also to a higher authority, meaning God. When the Nazis put flames to our synagogue, they wanted to take over and did succeed in taking the authority, namely, we are now under the authority of the Nazi rule, and they just wanted to diminish anything else that we had in our lives. It was devastating, and I might even say it was the first day of the Holocaust for me, even though I still slept in my bed for quite a while, and things, were so much better than later on. But the awareness of a Holocaust, the awareness of Nazi persecution was so real, it could not be denied.
Why do you feel the need to tell your story? What motivates you?
The story is, my motivation is that I have to give a legacy, and this legacy I already explained. All right, so we go next one.
What was the feeling when you were liberated?
When I was liberated, I was numb. I was happy that I was happy that my mother was still there, but it was almost a disbelief that the years of oppression had ended at that point. We were worried what had happened to our relatives, and at that time my father and all my grandmothers, my aunt, my uncle, my friends, what happened to all of them. We were very, very concerned. We were tired. We were sick. But we had achieved our goal. We were able to see Liberation Day, and we were very happy. My only problem was the day of liberation, my mother collapsed because she had, with willpower, she had put herself through to that particular day. She had tuberculosis, and she was sick from there on. But it was a beautiful day seeing the Americans come and give us cheer and give us a life and give everything that we had ever dreamt of, because our family personally wanted to come to America. It was a dream come true, but it was an unreal situation for the moment. It was not quite as easy as it sounded. We're liberated, we're jubilant. Within us, there were problems. And also, we were worried about something else. We were worried if we would ever be normal. I hadn't lived a normal life. We hadn't lived. And after everything we went through, would we actually be able to function in a normal society? We were doubting ourselves. And that was another story we had to cope with after liberation.
What was your most vivid memory of the Holocaust?
I think the night in Auschwitz, when I really lost my faith and questioned God. Briefly, I had a very difficult afternoon because people outside our barracks had been shot, and we were so concerned that we would be asked to go out and be the next ones to be shot. We were in shock, basically, medically speaking. But then evening came around, and we were on those bunks, and I had absolutely nothing. Wood, period. Like I said before, my mother was sick, and some people had a little bit of burlap. So I went to the person who was in charge, and I asked her if I could have some burlap, and she said no. And I kept arguing with her. I still had a little bit of spunk left at that point because I had just come from Theresienstadt, arguing, and she hit me. and I hit her back, which is something I should never, ever have done. And she was telling me at that point, if your parents haven't taught you anything, then I will. And which totally outraged me. And she made me kneel down. Now, I came from a religious family. We Jews do not kneel down except for Yom Kippur. My mother called my name, and she let me go. And I went back to my bunk. And at that moment, I felt, where is God now? Everything that I had done all my life, where I had been so religious and so faithful, nothing was worth at that point, and I had to kneel. I felt abandoned by my spiritual father, and I was wounded by the fact that I had just lost my physical father just about a week and a half prior to that, and how devastating this had been to me. I just felt I no longer could believe in God. God was there, but not for me. If I could no longer ask for anything as a personal favor, and it took me years, and I mean years. I'm only coming around now to change my attitude. It interfered with everything I did in my family life, and as a result, I had to go to a psychiatrist for 7 years, which was paid for by the Germans. I had too many conflicts when holidays came around, when I had to bring up my children. I had to come to terms with this aspect. It was one of the worst aspects I had after the Holocaust. It's a very, very difficult situation for me because I don't want to be that way. I want to be at peace with God, not fight.
Is there anything in your present-day life that occurs that reminds you of your time in the Holocaust?
Yes. I would say I'm a different kind of person because of the Holocaust. Very often I even wonder what kind of a person I would be if I hadn't been through the Holocaust at all. What would I be able to achieve? What kind of personality would I really have? But the defining factor was really very much the night before my father had to leave. And he called me aside and said, "Take care of your mother," because she was so sick at that point already. I made the promise. I kept my responsibility. But I also feel that somewhere along the line, it intensified myself to always keep a promise, take responsibility. And another part is also that I'm very intense in getting things done because I'm afraid that I only have now. I'm afraid what tomorrow might bring. Will I be sick? Will I not be able to do for any other reason? And I'm just too conscientious in carrying things out right then and there. My husband always tells me, the bill can wait. You don't have to pay it right away. No, I pay it right away. I get it, I pull out the checkbook or whatever, I pay it right away because I don't want anything that I wouldn't be able to accomplish. It frightened me, and I learned that in camp, and that's carried through to this life.
What did you feel when you saw the No Jews Allowed signs?
Well, I had already been prepared a little bit to the very fact that the Nuremberg laws in 1935 changed our status as citizens in Germany. So I knew things weren't quite right. I felt they didn't want us. What kind of category are we in this society? I had been able to go to the store before, and all of a sudden, we were no longer allowed to go in. Why? I questioned that. What was wrong? Was there something wrong with me? And there was another sign. There was another sign in some of the parks that they, no dogs or Jews allowed. Had I been reduced to the category of an animal? In their eyes, yes, but not in my own eyes. And it was depressing. It was.
What enabled you to survive?
I think what enabled me to survive was the very fact that during the last 7 months, especially, I had my mother with me. I had her support, the emotional support. I was able to curl up to her at night, and since she had the tuberculosis, she always had the temperature, and she felt warm, and it was this cozy, comfortable togetherness compared to other people who were there all by themselves. I was also a teenager in a little bit better health and a little bit more self-centered, as teenagers are at that point, and it gave me a great will to live. I didn't want to die. I hadn't lived life at all. This was my chance if I could just hang on another day, another week, a few months, make it to liberation. I want to live. I want to experience the world. I was born into this world. I wanted to know what it was like. I think, and of course, pure luck that I didn't get shot or was sent to the gas chamber, which I was very, very, very close to twice. That's what helped me to survive.
What do you think of people that denied the Holocaust existed?
Oh, deny the Holocaust. Let me see. I think I would say something to them. I said, come with me to Auschwitz, which will be preserved. Come to the library with me and see all the books that have been written as testimony to the Holocaust. And then come to the museum, Yad Vashem, Washington, U.S. Memorial, and all the smaller ones, all the wonderful attempts that have been made to preserve memory of the Holocaust. But I have one more place to go with you. Come with me to Germany. Come to the restitution office and ask them if they would be foolish enough to dish out so much money as restitution if the Holocaust wouldn't have happened. I even say to you, by participating in this video and by taking down history and asking questions, you are doing your part in telling the Holocaust deniers, you're wrong. We are making history for keeps. It is our history. We want to preserve it. And I thank you for that. I really do.
Did he celebrate Shabbat or other religious rituals?
Yeah, in Theresienstadt, I'm happy to say, there was a lot of that. There were a number of rabbis there. And my father was a leader of a youth room, not a home, excuse me. In this youth home where all of us were, including my mother, we all lived together there, in separate rooms, obviously. But he was able to perform services, and he did. That was part of his function. We had Shabbat service all the time, holidays, and of course anything else connected with Jewishness. Tried to teach us some Hebrew on a lecture type. We weren't allowed to have any school. We went downstairs, we would dance a horror, and it was all religiously orientated at that point yet. And that gave us strength, tremendous strength. It was some sort of resistance, I even feel, for the people who conducted the services to do this for us. And that made it all the more difficult for me later on to part with this item. Yes, yes, we had services.
What helped you keep your religious beliefs?
My surrounding. My father and mother saw to that, but it was so much part of me. It was something that made me the person who I was, or a good part of that. It was understood that I was looking for something higher than my own self. And I was so comfortable with it, so comfortable. But I lost it. And that was a difficult thing to live with for many years thereafter, after liberation.
Do you remember any special friendships that formed during the Holocaust?
Yes, I have a specific one in mind. Someone I met at the factory we worked after Auschwitz, airplane factory. And I spent a lot of time with her, and especially when we were in Mauthausen, where I was liberated. It formed a friendship like no other that would be possible. Lucky for me, our ways met again after liberation, and she had moved here to Philadelphia, and when I moved to Philadelphia, we became sisters. Under the circumstances, it was almost like we sisters, we had a secret that nobody else knew. We could look at each other and we knew what we were thinking, we knew what we were feeling. And that was actually at a time when people really didn't want to talk about the Holocaust, including myself. But it was this closeness that I can never, ever duplicate with anyone else who I will meet on the outside of the people that I met in camp. There was one other person involved. This was really very special. She was sick with lung cancer. I went to visit her 2-3 days before she died. I knew she was dying. And I said to her, Ruth, I will come back to see you. And she said, yeah. And as I walked to the door, she called me. We just looked at each other, and we knew it was the same goodbye that we had in Auschwitz with people who went over to the left, where we couldn't talk, we could only look at each other. And it was our farewell, it was our goodbye. It was a beautiful friendship.